The endless dunes of the Kalahari stretch beneath the scorching sun, a place where life should struggle. Yet an ancient people have thrived here for tens of thousands of years. They are the San, one of the last true hunter-gatherer societies on Earth. But they are more than just a surviving culture. Hidden within their DNA lies something extraordinary, something no other human population carries. A genetic anomaly so profound that scientists now believe they may hold the oldest and most diverse genetic code ever found in modern humans. What makes their DNA so unique? And could it rewrite everything we thought we knew about human evolution? For decades, scientists have attempted to piece together the origins of humanity, tracing migration patterns, analyzing ancient fossils, and decoding the genetic story of our species. But time and again, their research has led them back to one place, Southern Africa, and specifically, the DNA of the San people. Unlike the rest of us, their lineage stretches back over 300,000 years, diverging long before other populations even existed. Their genome carries the deepest genetic roots of our species, so deep that they don't just represent one of the earliest branches of modern humans, they are the branch from which we all came. But what's even more mind-blowing? Their genetic diversity is so vast that two unrelated San individuals can be more genetically different from each other than a European and an East Asian. That's how untouched and ancient their DNA is. But that's only the beginning. Because hidden in their genome is something that has left scientists speechless, a trace of an unknown human species that no longer exists. Unlike Europeans and Asians, who carry small amounts of Neanderthal DNA from ancient interbreeding, the San people have no Neanderthal ancestry. Instead, their DNA contains fragments that don't match any known hominin group. Not Neanderthals, not Denisovans, not even modern Africans. This suggests that long before recorded history, their ancestors may have interbred with a completely undiscovered species of early humans, one that has long since vanished from the Earth. Who were these mystery humans? Did they influence the unique physical and mental traits of the San? And is it possible that we're only now uncovering a lost chapter of human history, hidden within their genes? If their ancient lineage wasn't remarkable enough, their DNA also reveals something equally fascinating. Superhuman-like adaptations that have allowed them to survive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The Kalahari is brutal, with temperatures soaring above 110 degrees Fahrenheit, water sources vanishing for months, and food scarce for long periods. Yet the San have thrived here for thousands of years, and their DNA shows exactly how. Unlike other populations, their metabolism has evolved to function with incredible efficiency. They can endure days without food and water, using stored energy with near-perfect precision. Their bodies retain hydration longer than most humans, an adaptation coded deep in their DNA to survive the relentless desert heat. The trait of steatopygia, the ability to store fat in the lower body, is thought to be an evolutionary advantage that allows women to retain energy reserves for times of famine. Meanwhile, the unique RASSF8 and FRS1 genes regulate body mass and energy usage, giving them an almost unparalleled ability to survive extreme conditions. Even their immune system is unlike anything seen in the rest of the world. Unlike agricultural populations that evolved to fight off the diseases of crowded civilizations, the San's immune system is specialized for a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle, protecting them from different kinds of infections. This means their genetic makeup has been shaped by thousands of years of exposure to the pathogens of the wilderness rather than urban disease outbreaks. However, in the modern world, this ancient immune profile may be a double-edged sword. As they come into contact with modern diseases, their unique genetic defenses may no longer be enough, raising alarming questions about their future survival. And just when scientists thought they had uncovered all the major revelations about San genetics, another groundbreaking discovery shook the field of human evolution. For years, it was believed that lighter skin tones in humans developed only after our ancestors left Africa, adapting to lower UV exposure in colder climates. But when researchers examined the DNA of the San, they found something shocking: a genetic mutation for lighter pigmentation that evolved independently in Africa, long before humans even left the continent. This discovery turned everything upside down, proving that the evolution of human skin color was far more complex than anyone had imagined. If such major genetic changes could occur right here in Africa, what else are we missing in the story of our species? With all these extraordinary findings, the Sand People's DNA is more than just a scientific curiosity. It is a living archive of human history. It tells us how our ancestors survived, adapted, and even interacted with other lost human species. It helps scientists reconstruct the real timeline of human evolution, showing that our species may have existed far earlier than previously believed. And as genetic research advances, there's no telling what new secrets may still be buried within the sand genome, secrets that could redefine not just their history, but ours. But here's the reality. The sand's unique genetic legacy is fading. With globalization, intermarriage, and displacement, their ancient DNA is being diluted with each passing generation. Scientists are now racing against time to document and study their genome before it disappears forever. If the Sand People truly carry the genetic key to understanding where we come from, what happens if that key is lost? The Kalahari Desert, vast, unforgiving, and seemingly uninhabitable. Yet for thousands of years, the Sand People have thrived here, mastering a world where water is scarce, food is unpredictable, and survival depends not on brute strength, but on something far more remarkable, genetic adaptation. Unlike any other human population, the sand's DNA has evolved in extraordinary ways, allowing them to endure conditions that would break most of us. But how? What is it about their genetic code that makes them biologically distinct from every other group on Earth? To understand this, we need to look at how their bodies have been shaped by thousands of years of evolution in one of the toughest environments on the planet. For the average person, dehydration can become life-threatening within days. Yet sand hunters can cover vast distances under the scorching sun without collapsing from heat exhaustion. Their bodies use water differently, with genetic markers suggesting they may retain hydration more efficiently than most other human populations. This isn't just about drinking less. It's about how their kidneys, sweat glands, and even blood circulation have adapted to extreme desert survival. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. One of the most striking genetic traits found in sand people is their metabolic efficiency, an ability to sustain high energy levels even with minimal food intake. Their bodies don't waste energy like ours do. Instead, they regulate metabolism so efficiently that even in times of scarcity, their muscles remain strong and their endurance unmatched. This is why sand hunters are known for persistence hunting, chasing prey for hours, even days, until the exhausted animal collapses from sheer fatigue. Science is only now beginning to unravel the genes responsible for this superhuman-like stamina. But one thing is clear. Their genetic code is wired for endurance in ways that set them apart from the rest of us. And then there's a feature rarely discussed, but deeply significant, steatopigia. Common among sand women, this trait allows for extreme fat storage in the lower body, providing an energy reserve for survival in times of famine. Unlike the way fat accumulates in other populations, this adaptation is controlled by distinct genetic pathways that allow efficient energy storage without the negative health effects seen in modern obesity-related conditions. For generations, it ensured that during harsh seasons, mothers had enough nutrients to sustain both themselves and their children, a genetic advantage fine-tuned over millennia. But metabolism and endurance aren't the only things that set the sand apart. Their immune system carries a genetic blueprint vastly different from other populations. Unlike civilizations that evolved in large cities and agricultural settlements, where diseases spread quickly, the sand adapted to a hunter-gatherer pathogen landscape. This means their immune responses are tuned to fight infections found in wild environments, rather than the epidemic-prone illnesses that shape the immune systems of urban populations. However, this unique adaptation comes with a risk. As the world changes and the sand come into increasing contact with modern civilization, their immune system faces threats it was never designed to handle. Diseases that are mild for most populations can have devastating effects on the sand, raising concerns about their long-term survival in an evolving world. And just when scientists thought they had mapped out all of the sand's genetic anomalies, another stunning discovery emerged, a mutation that affects how their skin processes sunlight. Traditionally, it was believed that darker skin evolved exclusively in Africa due to high UV exposure, while lighter skin developed outside of Africa to increase vitamin D absorption in colder climates. But genetic studies found something unexpected. A unique variation in the sand genome that lightens their skin pigmentation, and it evolved right in Africa. This completely shattered old theories about human skin evolution, proving that light and dark skin tones didn't evolve in a simple north-south pattern, but in multiple, independent genetic events over time. These adaptations tell us one undeniable truth. The Sand People are living proof of human evolutionary genius. Their DNA shows us what happens when nature selects for endurance, adaptability, and survival against all odds. But as the modern world closes in, the same ancient adaptations that helped them survive for hundreds of thousands of years could now be putting them at risk. How will their genetic legacy hold up against the pressures of globalization, climate change, and disease? And could their DNA hold the answers to problems we are yet to face in the future? Far beneath the surface of what we think we know about human genetics lies a mystery that defies logic. A group of people whose DNA is unlike any other on Earth. The San of the Kalahari don't just carry ancient genes. Their genetic blueprint is so unique that it doesn't fully match any known population in the world. It's not just their deep evolutionary roots that make them stand out. It's what's hidden within their genome. Something that suggests a history that science has barely begun to uncover. For years, researchers assumed that all humans carried traces of the same evolutionary journey, our ancestors branching off, interbreeding with Neanderthals, then spreading across the world. But when geneticists sequenced the DNA of the San, they found something unexpected. Unlike Europeans and Asians, who have inherited small portions of Neanderthal DNA, the San have virtually none. This means their ancestors never left Africa to encounter Neanderthals, making their lineage one of the few that remains untainted by interbreeding with archaic humans outside the continent. But here's where it gets even more shocking. Scientists discovered genetic sequences in the sand that don't match any known human group at all. Buried within their DNA are traces of an unknown archaic species, a group that has long disappeared, leaving behind no fossils, no artifacts, no history, except for the genetic fingerprints hiding in the sand genome. This has led to one of the biggest questions in human evolution. Who were these mystery humans? Could they have been an early, undiscovered species that once coexisted with the ancestors of the sand? And if so, why are there no remains of them anywhere? Could they have lived in a part of Africa that has yet to be excavated? Or were they wiped out, leaving behind only the silent proof of their existence, trapped in the genes of the Sand People? Beyond this revelation, the sand genome holds another unparalleled trait, the highest genetic diversity ever recorded in a human population. To put it in perspective, if you take two random individuals from Europe, their genetic difference is tiny compared to two random San individuals. In fact, the genetic variation between two San people is greater than the difference between an East Asian and a Native American. This means that the San didn't just branch off early in human history. They preserved more of the original human genetic material than anyone else alive today. Their DNA is a living museum of humanity's genetic past, showing us what early Homo sapiens may have looked like before migrations, bottlenecks, and intermixing reshaped the rest of the world's gene pool. But why does this matter? Because genetic diversity isn't just about history, it's about survival. In the natural world, species with greater genetic diversity have a better chance of adapting to change. This could mean that the San, with their vast reservoir of human genetic material, may hold answers to some of the biggest challenges we face today, from disease resistance to genetic mutations that could one day help fight modern illnesses. Their DNA is already being studied for insights into metabolism, immunity, and even aging. Could it be that within their genes lies the key to unlocking longer lifespans, stronger immune responses, or even medical breakthroughs that could benefit all of humanity? As scientists dig deeper into the sand genome, they are uncovering more than just the story of an ancient people. They are unraveling the hidden history of all humans. Every sequence, every mutation, every unexplained fragment in their DNA brings us closer to understanding who we are and where we came from. But with modernization rapidly changing their way of life, the question remains, how long before this unique genetic blueprint is lost forever? In the vast, sun-scorched lands of the Kalahari, an ancient story is written, not in books, not in artifacts, but in DNA. A story that traces back to a time before civilizations, before recorded history, before even the concept of nations. The Sand people, who have lived in this landscape for tens of thousands of years, carry something no other human population does: genetic blueprints that have remained largely untouched, preserving secrets about humanity's origins and evolution. But their DNA isn't just old. It's different in ways that defy expectations. For most populations, history is shaped by migration, people moving, mixing, and evolving alongside new environments. But the Sand tell a different genetic story. Unlike other groups who experienced waves of expansion, conquest, and blending, the Sand remained largely isolated in southern Africa for tens of thousands of years. This isolation didn't just preserve their culture, it preserved something even more valuable: their unique genetic identity. Scientists have found that their DNA contains variants that exist nowhere else on Earth, mutations that have remained within their lineage while disappearing in others. Some of these mutations are linked to biological adaptations that have never been seen in any other human population. Take, for example, their respiratory efficiency. While most humans rely on oxygen intake that fluctuates based on exertion, some genetic markers in the Sand suggest a more controlled use of oxygen, allowing them to function at peak performance even under extreme heat and exhaustion. This might explain why they can sustain high-energy physical activities, like persistence hunting, for hours without showing the same fatigue as others would in similar conditions. It's a genetic efficiency system that modern athletes could only dream of having. But beyond their physical endurance, another discovery has stunned scientists: the presence of ultra-rare genetic markers linked to cognitive function. While intelligence is shaped by both environment and genetics, researchers studying the Sand genome have found unique neurological traits that may have contributed to their survival in ways we don't yet fully understand. These genetic sequences are associated with memory retention, spatial awareness, and rapid decision-making, abilities that would have been crucial for tracking prey, recognizing danger, and navigating vast, open landscapes with no landmarks. It raises a fascinating question. Could the Sand's genetic inheritance hold clues about the development of early human intelligence? Even more astonishing is how their genetic makeup influences their resistance to certain environmental stresses. The desert is a brutal teacher, and over time, those who couldn't adapt were simply erased by nature. The Sand, however, evolved defenses that remain unmatched. Their DNA contains highly specialized skin adaptation markers that regulate sweat production, preventing excessive dehydration in high temperatures. But that's not all. Scientists have discovered unusual variations in genes responsible for blood circulation, ensuring that oxygen is distributed evenly throughout their bodies, even under extreme heat. These genetic enhancements mean they can survive in conditions that would push most humans to the brink of collapse. And then, there's their unusual ability to process plant-based medicines. The Sand have used herbal remedies for generations, and genetic research suggests that their bodies may actually metabolize certain plant compounds more efficiently than other populations. This could explain why some of their traditional medicines have effects that seem far stronger when used by them than when tested in clinical trials on other groups. Could it be that their DNA has evolved to work in harmony with their environment in ways we don't yet understand? And if so, could unlocking these genetic secrets lead to breakthroughs in modern medicine? What's clear is that the Sand aren't just another ancient population. Their genetic legacy represents an untouched archive of human evolution, revealing adaptations that the rest of the world lost long ago. But as they are pushed further into modern civilization, their way of life is changing, and with it, their genetic distinctiveness is at risk of fading. With each passing generation, we are losing access to the secrets their DNA holds, secrets about survival, adaptation, and the limits of human potential. If their DNA contains the keys to unlocking the capabilities of the human body and mind, how much longer do we have before those keys are lost forever? In the heart of southern Africa, a hidden world exists, one that predates the rise of civilizations, outlasts the memory of ancient empires, and carries a genetic code unlike any other found on Earth. The Sand people, often called the last true hunter-gatherers, don't just represent a living link to humanity's past. Their DNA is so distinct, so unique, that it has forced scientists to rethink everything we know about human evolution. While the rest of the world's populations have been shaped by waves of migration, genetic mixing, and environmental shifts, the sand's genome has remained a preserved relic of an ancient time. Their DNA has been described as a genetic goldmine, revealing adaptations, traits, and variations that simply don't exist anywhere else. But what if I told you that their genome doesn't just help us understand the past? It might hold the key to our future. One of the most fascinating discoveries about the sand is their genetic response to aging. Studies show that their DNA carries markers linked to slower cellular degeneration, meaning that despite living in one of the harshest environments on Earth, their bodies seem to resist aging better than many other populations. Could it be that their genetic adaptations for survival also contribute to longevity? And if so, what could this mean for modern science's search for ways to extend human lifespan? But there's something even more astonishing. Within the sand genome, scientists have identified rare gene variants linked to pain tolerance and stress regulation. The Kalahari is an unforgiving land, where injuries and hardships are part of daily life. Yet, the sand have been observed enduring pain levels that would incapacitate most others. Genetic analysis suggests that their nervous system may have evolved in a way that processes pain differently, allowing them to push their bodies beyond what we would consider normal human limits. Could understanding these genetic factors revolutionize how we treat pain and resilience in medicine? Then there's the mystery of their exceptional endurance under extreme physical conditions. Unlike other populations whose muscle fibers favor either strength or speed, the sand display a rare balance between endurance and recovery ability. Researchers are now looking into whether their muscle composition, controlled by specific genetic markers, holds insights into how the human body can maintain peak performance over prolonged periods. Could these discoveries one day lead to advancements in sports science, rehabilitation, or even space travel, where endurance and adaptability are crucial? But perhaps the most overlooked aspect of their genetics is how it interacts with their environment in ways that modern science still struggles to understand. The sand rely on an extensive knowledge of plant-based medicine, a tradition that has been passed down for thousands of years. What's truly intriguing is that their DNA appears to have evolved alongside the medicinal plants they use, potentially enhancing the effects of certain natural compounds when processed by their bodies. This opens up a profound question. Have the sand co-evolved with their environment in a way that no other population has? And if so, could their genetics help us unlock new, more effective forms of medicine? Despite these groundbreaking discoveries, the truth is undeniable. Their genetic uniqueness is disappearing. As modernization accelerates, their distinct gene pool is becoming diluted, and with it, the knowledge encoded within their DNA is slipping away. Scientists are in a race against time to decode the secrets of their genome before it's too late. Because if the sand truly hold answers to the mysteries of the remote, sun-scorched landscapes of the Kalahari, a living genetic archive exists. A people whose DNA has remained untouched by the migrations and genetic shifts that shaped the rest of the world. The sand are not just a historical relic of humanity's past, they are a biological enigma, carrying genetic information that challenges our very understanding of evolution. What makes their DNA truly remarkable isn't just its age, but the genetic divergence it represents. Unlike most populations that have experienced genetic bottlenecks, reducing their diversity over time, the sand have maintained a level of genetic variation so high that it exceeds what is seen in the rest of humanity. But why? What allowed their genome to retain variations that disappeared elsewhere? And could these variations be the key to understanding early human evolution at a level we've never seen before? One of the biggest revelations in recent genetic research is the discovery of unique mitochondrial DNA lineages in the sand that are absent in any other human group. Mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down directly from mother to child, holds the clearest record of our deep ancestry. When scientists traced these maternal lines, they found that the sand carries some of the oldest and rarest genetic markers ever identified, so ancient that they predate the genetic signatures found in most other modern populations by tens of thousands of years. This suggests that their ancestors were among the very first distinct groups of Homo sapiens to emerge, long before other human populations split off and spread across the world. But mitochondrial DNA isn't the only mystery hidden in their genes. The sand also exhibit high levels of genetic markers associated with environmental resilience, particularly in how their bodies regulate temperature, hydration, and physical exertion. Unlike other populations that evolved in cooler, resource-rich climates, the sand's genome has been sculpted by an environment of extremes, one that has forced their biology to become incredibly efficient at sustaining energy, regulating heat, and minimizing the physical toll of starvation or dehydration. These adaptations don't just make them unique, they challenge conventional ideas about how humans can survive in the most punishing conditions on Earth. And then, there's a discovery that has left researchers baffled: genetic sequences in the sand that appear to have no clear evolutionary origin. Some genetic markers found in their DNA are so distinct that they don't seem to match any known population, past or present. These sequences aren't related to Neanderthals or Denisovans, the archaic human species that left genetic traces in Europeans and Asians. Instead, they hint at a completely unknown hominin group that interbred with the sand's ancestors deep in Africa's prehistoric past. This raises a profound question. Could an undiscovered human species have once walked among us, leaving behind only fragments of its existence hidden in the genes of the sand? And if so, what happened to them? But beyond the mystery of their origins, their genetic legacy holds something even more valuable: clues about the future of human adaptation. The world is changing at an unprecedented rate, and with it, the challenges to human survival are growing. Climate change, food scarcity, and new diseases are reshaping the planet in ways that could threaten entire populations. But the sand have already survived millennia of environmental extremes. Their DNA carries the blueprint of adaptation, one that scientists believe could provide insights into how humans might evolve to meet the challenges of the future. Despite their genetic significance, the truth is undeniable. The sand are one of the most marginalized and overlooked groups in the world. With each passing generation, their genetic uniqueness is eroding, their way of life disappearing, and with it, a chapter of human history that may never be recovered. If their DNA truly holds the key to understanding our past and preparing for our future, how much longer do we have before that key is lost forever? Human evolution, health, and endurance. What happens if we lose those answers forever? In every human population, DNA tells a story of migrations, of mixing, of change. But in the case of the Sand people, their DNA tells a story that is unlike any other. It is not a tale of conquest, of lost civilizations, or of great wars. Instead, it is a story of survival, of a people who remained while the rest of the world changed. A people whose genetic legacy stretches back further than any known civilization, preserving something ancient, something untouched, something that scientists are only now beginning to understand. But what makes the Sand people's DNA so different? It isn't just about age, it's about depth. When scientists analyze DNA, they look at the points where genetic markers differ. In most populations, these differences accumulate over time, creating distinct genetic branches. But in the case of the sand, something remarkable happens. Their genetic diversity is so vast that it doesn't just form a single branch. It creates an entire network of genetic variations, more complex and widespread than anything seen in the rest of humanity. One of the most groundbreaking discoveries in recent years is that the sand genome does not fit the standard model of human evolution. Most populations today can trace their ancestry back to a series of bottlenecks, events that drastically reduced genetic diversity as humans migrated and adapted to new environments. These bottlenecks shaped everything from skin color to disease resistance to metabolism. But the sand genome doesn't show the same patterns of restriction. Instead, it suggests that while the rest of humanity experienced genetic narrowing, the ancestors of the sand maintained an unbroken genetic continuity, preserving traits and variations that have been lost elsewhere. This could explain why the sand carry more ancestral human genetic material than any other group on the planet. While other populations developed new mutations over time, the sand retained a genetic foundation that stretches back hundreds of thousands of years. This raises an incredible possibility. Could the sand hold the purest genetic record of what early Homo sapiens were truly like? If we could travel back in time and meet our earliest ancestors, would they resemble the sand more than any other modern group? But their uniqueness isn't just about history, it's about functionality. Their genetic adaptations suggest a completely different way of interacting with the environment. Unlike agricultural societies, which shape their genetics around farming and domesticated food sources, the sand's genome evolved for a hunter-gatherer existence, one that required endurance, heightened senses, and extreme adaptability. Scientists have found that certain neurological markers in the sand are linked to heightened spatial awareness, rapid reflex responses, and an enhanced ability to track movement over long distances, traits that would have been critical for survival in the wild. Even their sleep patterns are unique. Recent research suggests that the sand exhibit a natural resistance to sleep disruption, allowing them to function on less rest while maintaining high levels of awareness. This may have been an evolutionary advantage, ensuring that some members of a group remained alert while others rested. Could their genetic blueprint offer insights into the science of sleep, memory, and mental resilience? But despite all these revelations, the reality is clear. Their genetic distinctiveness is disappearing. With each new generation, as modernization accelerates and intermarriage becomes more common, the unbroken genetic lineage of the sand is slowly fading. The very DNA that has remained untouched for millennia is now at risk of being lost forever. Scientists are in a race against time to document, study, and understand what remains before these genetic secrets vanish completely. If the Sand People truly carry the deepest genetic record of humanity, how much longer do we have to preserve it? And what else might we uncover before it's too late? The human genome is like a vast, uncharted landscape, full of clues about who we are, where we came from, and how we became the species we are today. But in this intricate web of genetic history, one group stands apart. The Sand People of the Kalahari are more than just an indigenous population. They are a biological anomaly, a living genetic archive carrying secrets that no other human group possesses. For decades, geneticists have searched for answers about the origins of modern humans, tracing back through thousands of years, piecing together migrations, adaptations, and interbreeding events. But when the sand genome was first fully sequenced, it didn't just reveal answers. It raised entirely new questions. Their genetic structure didn't fit into the patterns seen in other populations. Instead of showing the same evolutionary bottlenecks that shaped the rest of humanity, their DNA displayed a continuity that stretched back in time further than anyone expected. One of the most fascinating aspects of their genome is its complexity. When scientists map out human ancestry, they often see clear genetic paths, branches that split and reconnect as populations mixed over time. But the sand genome is different. Instead of a single branch, their genetic history is woven into a dense, intricate network, with more variations and unique markers than any other group ever studied. This suggests that the ancestors of the sand didn't just survive the pressures of evolution, they thrived in a way that left their DNA remarkably intact. But what does this mean for the rest of us? It means that within their genome lies a genetic blueprint of early humanity, untouched by the dramatic shifts that altered other populations. It means that they carry versions of genes that may have been lost in other lineages, preserving traits and capabilities that could have once been widespread but are now exclusive to them. Take, for instance, their sensory perception. Some research suggests that the sand possess a heightened ability to detect subtle changes in their environment, from tracking animal movements over vast distances to sensing atmospheric shifts before a storm arrives. While some of this is cultural knowledge, passed down through generations, genetic markers suggest that neurological adaptations may also play a role. Could it be that the sand genome holds genetic variations that were once common in early humans, traits that helped our ancestors survive in the wild but have faded in modern societies? And then, there's a completely different mystery: their resistance to certain age-related conditions. While no human is immune to the effects of aging, scientists have found that certain markers in the sand genome are associated with cellular repair mechanisms that function more efficiently than in other populations. This could explain why some members of the sand appear to maintain muscle strength, cognitive sharpness, and endurance levels well into old age. Could these genes be the key to understanding how humans might one day slow down aging or prevent degenerative diseases? But perhaps the biggest revelation is what we still don't know. Every time researchers examine the sand genome, They find something unexpected, a variation in metabolism, an unexplained immune system trait, or an adaptation that defies conventional understanding. It's clear that their DNA is not just a relic of the past. It's a gateway to discoveries that could reshape medicine, anthropology, and evolutionary science. Yet, with all this knowledge, one alarming truth remains. As modern influences spread, the very genetic uniqueness that makes the sand so valuable to science is disappearing. Their once isolated gene pool is becoming diluted. Their way of life is being altered. And with it, the biological adaptations that have been preserved for thousands of years are at risk of being lost forever. If we fail to study and understand the secrets hidden within the sand genome, what vital knowledge could we be losing? And more importantly, will we realize its significance before it's too late? The story of human evolution has always been told through fragments, fossils buried beneath ancient soil, artifacts left behind by lost civilizations, and genetic traces scattered across populations. But what if there was a group of people who didn't just carry pieces of that story, but an unbroken link to the very foundation of our species? The Sand People of the Kalahari are not just another indigenous group. They are the closest living connection to humanity's earliest ancestors. Their DNA is a time capsule, holding genetic information that has remained intact for hundreds of thousands of years. But what happens when a time capsule is opened too late? What happens if the knowledge it holds is lost before we truly understand its importance? Every scientific breakthrough related to the sand's genome has led to a new, unexpected revelation. At first, researchers thought they were simply an ancient lineage, but deeper analysis uncovered entire segments of DNA that didn't match any known population. Then, they found genetic markers that suggested physiological advantages that are unseen in other groups. Now, the biggest mystery remains. What haven't we discovered yet? One of the most puzzling aspects of their genetics is their ability to maintain energy efficiency under extreme stress. Most humans experience rapid fatigue when faced with physical exertion, but the sand show a rare genetic pattern linked to sustained muscle function. Unlike other populations, their metabolism doesn't just conserve energy. It adapts in real time, making precise adjustments based on activity level and food availability. This trait is so rare that some scientists believe it could hold the key to unlocking medical advancements in muscle recovery, endurance, and even space exploration. And then there's their brain chemistry. Cognitive function is influenced by both genetics and environment, but certain neurological markers found in the sand indicate a unique pattern of brain activity, particularly in decision-making, adaptability, and sensory processing. Could it be that the genetic traits which allowed early humans to navigate vast landscapes, avoid predators, and master survival strategies still exist, but only in a select few populations like the sand? But beyond genetics, their way of life itself is a window into a lost era of human history. While much of the world has moved toward industrialization and modern technology, the sand have maintained an understanding of nature that most of us have long forgotten. They can read the land like a map, predict animal movements with uncanny precision, and identify plants with medicinal properties that modern science is only now beginning to study. If their genetic code carries traces of humanity's past, then their knowledge is just as important as their DNA. Yet, the harsh truth is that both are disappearing. With increasing pressures from modernization, displacement, and cultural shifts, the sand's genetic and cultural legacy is facing irreversible change. As their communities integrate into a world that wasn't built for them, their once isolated gene pool is merging with others, diluting the very genetic variations that make them so significant to science. Within a few generations, the DNA that has remained largely untouched for thousands of years could become indistinguishable from the rest of the world's populations. But the real question is, do we truly understand what we're losing? The answers to human adaptation, to longevity, to survival itself may be written in the genes of the sand, but if we don't act fast, those answers may slip away forever. The story of the Sand People is not just a story of the past, it's a warning for the future. If the most ancient, most genetically diverse population on Earth is disappearing, what does that mean for the rest of humanity? Are we standing at the edge of a discovery that could redefine our understanding of who we are? Or are we watching one of the last great mysteries of human evolution vanish before we ever get the chance to fully understand it?